van días y varias semanas.
He hasn't given no response, and it's been days, and it's been weeks, and yeah. What do you think, Sarah, of this canyon right here?
It's absolutely incredible. I haven't been to Tijuana in a lot of years, and seeing how wide open it is. I mean, I don't know if you could turn the camera around and show everyone how wide open it is. It's incredible.
A couple of questions. So. Ms. Rashida, what is your opinion on the massive child trafficking that is happening? Y espero logren su objetivo de la justicia a su país. Luchen por su país. Say the basically fight for your country. Están bloqueando el acceso. ¡Viva! La Policía Federal o la autoridad nos está deteniendo el acceso y nos está deteniendo el paso para poder cruzar hacia el Zócalo, señores.
How's everybody doing? God bless everybody that is watching. God bless our country of Mexico, our city of Tijuana, and God bless today, the United States of America. It's a sad day today in the country that represents basically true patriotism around the world, as today an attack of the Taliban in Kabul, in the airport of Kabul, where 13 U.S. service members of the United States died, and 60 Afghans were killed in Kabul at an airport attack in the United States and territory of Afghanistan. Today, what more people to be basically talking to the people that they know how it is like in the United States of America, in Afghanistan, how it is like to serve under this kind of situations, and their opinions on how the situation is being handled right now and what it was like to serve under those conditions. Our first guest will be first and foremost, hold on a second, a 32-year veteran. He served in the Air Force. 32 years. Wow. Just a long life. He's a master sergeant. Last name Castillo. He served 32 years in the Air Force. He was in Afghanistan. He served 1 year in Afghanistan. And ultimately, he has the experience to tell us what was the conditions and what was the situation over there. On the line with me, we have veteran of 32 years, Mr. Jesus Castillo. Thank you so much, Mr. Castillo, for being on the live feed with us.
Gracias. Thanks for having me.
Mr. Castillo, thank you for your service, first and foremost. The American audience right now on the live feed is thanking you for the 32 years that you served in the Air Force, and you were a master sergeant. If you like to present yourself to the audience, that will be just great for the audience to know you.
Yes, 32 years in the Air Force. Good on every continent, and one of my last stops was actually Kandahar, Afghanistan.
How is the situation in Afghanistan? Because a lot of people don't understand the actual atmosphere and the situation in Afghanistan. You were right there in the middle of everything. Can you explain a little bit to the American public about your experience over there?
Well, I was stationed actually in Kandahar, the main city of the airport there, and we did a search and rescue. So every day we would get calls and go pick up the wounded. There could be 5, 6, 7 calls a day. But the news only publicized the big explosion. The 20 dead, 50 dead, 100 dead, whatever. But every day people are dying. And that's part of my job was helping search and rescue team go out and out into the field in our H-60 helicopters to pick them up.
Wow. The situation today, Mr. Castillo, I don't know if you heard, I think that you already heard, 13 U.S. servicemen were killed over there at the airport of Kabul. Your take on what happened today?
Not people help the people evacuate. I think that there's more. Some men there that at least get everything out of their safety. If anything, I would have actually kind of kept it on the down low. Get the American drive first and get the publicized. That's fine. It's kind of hard to start looking kind.
You were telling me a few moments ago that if the American soldiers are not there, it will, Afghanistan will collapse in a minute because of the radical, situation that coexists still in Afghanistan. Can you explain us a little bit about that?
Well, this fighting, of course, has been going on for years. And, change the entire culture. And until that happens, it's going to be the same thing because, they're not too fond of the Americans, well, not only American Westerners for that matter. And, it's just the way their thought process is. You got to educate them. There's a better way of doing things instead of being radicals.
The evacuation process, it was different on this time that occur with the Afghanistan. What happened recently in Afghanistan? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, again, that has to do with the culture because, when the Afghans know that the Americans are going to be needing a withdrawing, and anybody that helped the American forces, for that matter, their lives are in danger because they help a foreign country, and again, their culture, their thinking, so. Every person who thinks they might be in danger, of course, they're going to stay on in the air if they can. How you get those secure the perimeter, the rest and a little better, and hope for the best.
What do you think it will be the solution right now over there at this particular juncture right now? Say what?
Well, you can actually work for a peace organization, and you're capable of they're looking for but it's getting them to the airport. The people outside on the perimeter because we bomb blast and we have so once they're in protective area of the airport, then it shouldn't be a problem. But all you can do is take a slow and steady pace, 40 minutes you can on the airplane, and of course they got to go to the background check. So that's good. The administration doesn't want the air either. So that's part of the problem. So there's really no way to get them out fast. All you can do is screen them the best you can. Put them in another country or if you
Yes. Lastly, I don't want to take much of your time, and I want to appreciate you. Thank you so much, Mr. Castillo, for giving me this moment of the day. Lastly, what is your message to the American public of what just happened today of the 13 casualties and to the families that they have, lost their loved ones? I believe that, possibly you saw a lot of this through all your career, through all your, 32 years of being a master sergeant in the Air Force. That's just unbelievable, Frank. What is your message to the American public and to the people that have lost, these servicemen in Afghanistan?
That's part of the job. That's what we signed up for. Otherwise, I would have never been over there. So, it's worth it, and all you can do is pray, and hopefully everything goes better.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Castillo, for the time of the day. God bless you, sir, and thank you so much for giving us the time of the day over here on our show.
Okay, thank you. Nice talking to you.
Yeah, nice talking to you too, sir. There you have it, a 32 years of service in the Air Force, a veteran who practically explains, that this is a problem that has been coexistent. The evacuation situation, he explained it a little bit right there. This a man that served 32 years in the Air Force, and he's a master sergeant. 32 years serving for the American country, for for the United States of America. I believe that it's important for every single veteran. If you're a veteran, and if you're listening to me right now, or a retired veteran, reach out to me, send me a message, and if you want to speak up about what is happening right now in the middle in Afghanistan, and your experience on how things are being handled, if it was in the past administration or the current administration, reach out to me, and I will give you the platform for you to explain and for you to elaborate whatever you want to say. We have another one. We have another a veteran that he served also 3 years in Iraq, and he's a friend of ours. And I believe that this is extremely important that we will practically, we bring our people that we know on the topic and on the subject of everything that is going on. And today is I believe that is a really sad day for the United States of America, as the airport was, it was a collapse on the airport, and 13 lives occurring right now to the article of the television WBALTV mainstream media and the Associated Press. 13 U.S. service members and 60 Afghans. 13 U.S. service members lost their lives, and 60 Afghans also were killed in Kabul airport and the attack. I believe that this is a great time for people to start understand that this is extremely important, that if you want to express yourself and if you want to talk about this situation of how you feel and how also the current administration, how they're handling this situation in Afghanistan, if you want to talk about it, just send me a message. We have another guest. He is also a veteran, 3 years infantry in the Army. He also is a retired ICE agent. Retired ICE agent is a friend of ours, and we have them. We have had Chris. That his name is Chris Yost. We have had Chris in the before, as he has explained the processes of child trafficking and how they process a child in ICE. But most importantly today, I want him on so he can explain his side, and also he can explain how the things are being handled right now in Afghanistan. That it's extremely important for everybody to know your opinion of your people that they have served your country. So with you, Chris Yost, right here into the screen. Thank you so much, Chris, for giving us the time of the day. Chris Yost is in El Paso, Texas. He is a 3-year. He served in the military for 5 years. He served in Iraq for 3 years. And also, he is a retired ICE agent. Thank you so much, Chris, for being on the live feed with us.
What's going on, Oscar? Thanks for having me.
So, a couple of things that I want to ask you, and it's extremely important that I point this kind of things out. Now, there's a couple of articles that I want to basically put right here on the screen, and I believe that these articles. Let me hold on a second. The first one, but before that, what is your take on the situation? How this current administration has handled what happened in Afghanistan right now in the airport in Kabul? What is your opinion on this?
It was doomed from the beginning. When you're in an operation for over 20 years, you don't just pull out in the middle of the night and expect everything to be all good again. There's logistics, there's personnel, and we saw when all those things fail. I mean, now, Biden's BFF, Obama, he tried to do that with Iraq. Him and Hillary Clinton armed ISIS. Now all he did was just arm the Taliban with state-of-the-art equipment that we don't even give Israel. So now we just armed one of the most dangerous, terrorist organizations known to man, who's got ties now to Iran. China and Russia now have interest in the what's going on in Afghanistan. I think it was that China just legitimized the Taliban, has recognized them as the official government of Afghanistan now. So, you know, they're now just going to be able to give that equipment and that technology to our enemies so that they know how to defeat our equipment.
So there's a video that it's actually, you know, going around right now, and is really important that everybody, how's everybody doing? God bless everybody that is watching. Thank you so much for joining on the live feed. Today we had a 32-year-old Master Sergeant veteran that he gave us an interview by the phone. He was at the Air Force, and he served in the Air Force, and he was over in Afghanistan. Also, he served in Afghanistan. And right now we have on the screen Chris Yost, that he's an Army infantry veteran. He served 5 years, and also he served 3 years in Iraq. Now, there's a video which is, you know, a total disgrace, Chris, of this video, which is the Black Hawk that the Taliban had gained control of the equipment. And, you know, can you elaborate on this?
So from what I saw that video earlier, it's a UH-60 Black Hawk that we gave as part of the aid package to the Afghan army. And what happened was pretty much that it was primitive to them. They didn't know how to turn it, not even start it up. And what they ended up doing, from the reports that I read, was the Taliban were searching for former Afghan pilots and threatening them, hey, you're going to teach us how to use it, or you're going to join us and you're going to fly it for us. So right here you see right now, that's the Black Hawk being taxied down. I believe that's Kandahar, since they've already taken over Kandahar. That's them taxiing down their private-owned base, you know, free and clear. They didn't figure out how to get it off the ground yet, but it's only a matter of time that they figure out the mathematics behind flying. But they figured out how to start it up, the computers, how to get the engines pre-checked and ready to go. And you can see them moving it across the runway there. That's very fearsome, because some of the equipment we gave them were attack versions of that helicopter that they could put machine guns and rocket pods on. And now that's become an airborne threat.
Now you're talking about multi-billion dollar equipment, Chris, right here. You know, how the U.S. is going to recover from this?
They're not. It's a huge black in the eye that they're never going to be. You can put all the steak, all the ice you want on it, it's never going to heal. This was done on the international stage. It pretty much shows how illegitimate the U.S. government is at this point, because they allowed a poor farming community to basically just walk in, take over, say, hey, I'm here, give me your stuff. And there you go, 20 years and $83 billion worth of aid now into the hands of a terrorist organization.
Now, I want to ask you something, and it was something that right now the Master Sergeant, Mr. Castillo, right now he elaborated on this. And I believe that it's extremely important that we know that is a matter of a culture shock, because when the United States military is in Afghanistan or is in the Middle East, things are controlled. You know, they have an amount of control over a particular area, or you can say they are at ease. As soon as they pull out at this immediate juncture, this creates this kind of a disruption. Am I wrong or am I right?
I mean, for the most part, you're right there, because the U.S. had a vested interest, and it was to rid the Arab Peninsula basically of the radicalized mentality of, kill the infidel. Pretty much the infidel is anyone that's non-Arab, non-Islam. And basically the way that you beat that mentality is you win the hearts and minds. However, for every step forward that the U.S. was making over 20 years because of corruption in both Iraq and Afghanistan, we were getting forced 3 steps back. The U.S. believes that the only way to fix it is throw more money at it at the taxpayers' expense. And like I said, 20 years, $83 billion. Did you get a return on your investment as an American citizen? No, you just had to fit the bill.
Now, so many lives have been lost. Do you think that the way that the administration of Joe Biden just the way that they're handling things right now, there's a lot of Americans that they're left behind. Not only American service men and women, but also American people that they are not transported immediately right now into their homes and right now into safety into their country. Your opinion and your take on that?
Well, you look how it starts there at the boots on ground leadership. You have a coward that was the U.S. ambassador there, that he was okay. He got taken away, but he left behind his staff, the Marines that protected the embassy, and the local nationals that were aiding the U.S. mission to Afghanistan. Right there. I mean, if you're a true leader, you're going to make sure that your people are either on that bird with you or en route to safety before you step off. You step off the battlefield in a sense. And from what I understand, and I don't know if you have any clarification on it, but the U.S. or Biden already replaced the ambassador with an interim guy there in Afghanistan to basically handle negotiations with the Taliban. Last time I checked, we had a long-standing international policy that we don't negotiate with terrorists.
But let me tell you something. Back in history, if we go back in history, the Taliban was friend of the United States. Remember that?
You're talking about during the Soviet invasion?
Yes.
Well, yes and no, because the Taliban was fighting the Northern Alliance, and we backed the Northern Alliance against the Russians. However, at some point, there was one of those kind of the enemy of my enemy is my friend type mentality. And then right after the Russians got expelled in the tail end of the 80s, that's where the Taliban took over and said, okay, now we're in charge.
Now, what do you think that it should be at this juncture right now? This is aggravating right now. There's a comment right here on the live feed, and I will read it, and it is, the Middle East doesn't have a Western culture. It is obvious that. It is so obvious. There's different radical organizations in terms to the Islamic religion. There's the Shia Muslim, and there's ISIS, and there's this because the most peaceful Muslim is the Sunni Muslim. That is the one that is just don't get involved, doesn't get in no problems. I know that you lived through this culture and you lived there for 3 years. What do you think it will be the solution right now after all of this?
The obvious answer is, and it's easier said than done now, because now Afghanistan has no legitimate military forces. It's going to have to go back down to like when we first won our independence, of guerrilla warfare. You have to get a bunch of people together, say enough is enough. We're tired of this. And just like we saw in Iraq, they had an insurgency. The people of Afghanistan are going to have to come back, and there's more of them than there is of the Taliban. Let's face it. It's just the will. But the problem is, like we saw in Iraq, that's why Trump was like, we're done with this, because we're not going to send American lives to protect a country that has nothing to offer the U.S. And, there comes a point when you just have to cut your losses, like with Iraq, where all the training and all the money that we gave them, they just were complacent enough to rely on, I don't have to die for my country. I got some American coming here that he's going to die for it. I don't have to spend money on my army. America's going to do it. And they got so complacent with it, and the U.S. was doing it. I don't know what the ulterior motive was of it, but you see what's happening on with Afghanistan. It didn't work in Vietnam. It didn't work in Korea. It's not working in the Middle East. So
now, what is your take on the culture over there? When you were in Iraq, you experienced it firsthand. They don't want the Western culture. It is obvious that this is it. This is basically it for it's a huge message, particularly to the United States of America. We don't want to be Westernized. It's basically what it says. What is your take on that?
It's their inherent right. If they don't want to be Westernized, as you said, that's their right. They have, that's one of that area, the Fertile Crescent, that goes back to ancient Mesopotamia, that they were, one of the thriving culture centers throughout history. There's a reason why they're still around. Remember, the U.S. is still the new kid on the block. We've only been around for less than 250 years. They've been around for thousands of years. They're set in their ways. I mean, we as a a westernized society, we can't say what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong, because we have our own vices and wrongdoings. But they firmly believe that what Allah preached or presented to Muhammad, that's the rule of law, that's the way of life. And if you try to alienate that or deviate from it, there's ramifications. And with America coming over, and as well as the UK, Australia, and all the NATO allies coming over, we were seen as the infidel, the invader, because we're trying to use bribery with money, military equipment, business, and what have you, to change their way of thinking, their way of life. And you get a group like the Taliban that they believe that they're the religious, they're fighting, they're holy warriors basically. So they're going to repel the invasion.
Now, let me just ask you, like, really under the seat fire questions.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that it's time to get out?
Oh, absolutely. It's the time to get out's been a decade ago.
That's it.
I mean, yeah, we've how many American lives have to be lost for a country to stand up for their own selves? When I took the oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic, it didn't say that also to secure the freedom for other nations and keep doing it until they get the moxie to defend themselves. American, we got a problem here in the U.S. We're being invaded, just like Mexico is. Our resources should be protecting our borders, because that's how they're going to use this new wave. And I don't know if you saw recently, they just found at least 100 of these so-called refugees from Afghanistan have already been detained by Homeland Security because they have their own terrorist watch lists.
Now,
So
let me read this article right here. It says, how valuable are the U.S. weapons to the Taliban that just captured? And it was written August 21, 2021. And it says right here, and they quote it. It says, on that road, there is a lot of equipment that has been abandoned, said a journalist, McKee. And it says also, it was sort of unclear to me whether the vehicles were already destroyed by the soldiers or that they were functioning, at that the Taliban hadn't quite figured out how to use them. But there was certainly a good bunch of them along that single road into Uzbekistan. This is extremely concerning, Chris, because all of the military equipment that it was bought and that it was there, and that all the investment on the American taxpaying money, it is basically been taken and held hostage right now by a terrorist organization.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, that's one of the ultimate black eyes to a superpower. Is hey, I got you out of my country and I took your equipment at your expense. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn around and use it on you or your interests. Because let's face it, you do know who was backing the Iraqi insurgency, and also who's backing the Taliban with their assets besides the U.S. now. It's Iran. Iran is one of our enemies. Iran has ties to China and Russia. So we both know that Iran's ultimate endgame is to basically rid the earth of Israel. And what way to do that now is, now that you got the Taliban, who's now an additional mini superpower now with westernized equipment and their own standing military. Now I think they have like something like 20 or 30,000 supposedly Taliban forces in that country. You essentially have a whole division, maybe two divisions of personnel, if you want to equate it to the U.S. Side of numbers. Now you gave them state-of-the-art equipment. They're ready for war.
Exactly. Now, what would have been, because the evacuation, there's an evacuation drill. There's a way to evacuate when these kind of situations are done. The military, one of the most prepared military on the side of Israel, it is the United States of America. They're extremely prepared for evacuation drills, for every kind of attack or counterattack drill. What happened? Because it looks like it was never to be done and it was never to be practiced. They look like they nobody did what they have been practiced and what they have been learning for years, Chris. It's just it looked nobody followed the instructions and nobody followed what it was supposed to be done. What happened?
We have a saying in the military. It's called snafu, situation normal, all effed up. That's exactly like a textbook definition of that, where either it was just a massive miscommunication, which it does happen, but not in a sense like this. What happened was it seems like it's premeditated, that the Biden administration was just like, you know what, just give them what they want. And that's never have I seen ever. And I grew up in the early 80s, so we saw the attacks, in Africa that Al Qaeda did on the U.S. embassies in was it Nairobi and was it Kenya, where they evacuated what was left of their embassies. You said, there's drills. The United States Marine Corps is tasked with guarding our interests overseas. That's why there's always Marine Corps attachments at all the embassies. There's also a fleet that's always on standby, some Navy ships to accommodate evacuations. Okay. Well, the minute that threat assessment went out, the Marines should have been boots on ground, or at least airborne en route to start evacuating, because there's protocols that have to be done. Like the plates that they use to make the passports, they have to be destroyed. Sensitive documents have to be destroyed. And then they have to start destroying the hard drives of all the computers. Now, what the media does not tell you is because they didn't evacuate like they were supposed to, there's a database called the BATS system, BATS. We had this in Iraq after I got hurt and I worked in detainee operations. It's a biometric automated targeting system. Basically what it is, it's a database linked to the Pentagon and the State Department. Whenever you put someone in there, you do the retinal scan.
Pause
DNA.
right there. Pause. I don't want to interrupt you, but pause. That data system was exactly the same one in Afghanistan. In question, before you move forward, is that data system in power of the Taliban?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Now, this database...
hold on, Chris. Hold on before you move. So the whole national security of the United States of America is in the hands right now of these people?
Well, it's not so much a national security. It's basically specific information on targets of interest or captured insurgents, terrorists. That's why. How do you think that they raided all the prisons?
Holy
so
cow,
fast?
Chris! That's everything.
That's 20 years worth of data on who's on the
how can you
list.
How can you not be mad? A guy that served, and I believe that the veteran that we just interviewed also 32 years also that served in the military, and all the people that they lost their lives and they served to go and fight for the United States of America in a foreign country. How can you not be mad that all 20 years of work, it is in the hands of these people?
I am livid to say the least. Like I said, I didn't serve in Afghanistan, but I've had a lot of family members and friends. One of them who's never made it back. He did his first tour after graduating Marine Corps boot camp, and sadly, a RPG hit his vehicle, and he didn't survive the hit. But I have a lot of friends that they went there and they came back changed men. They came back missing limbs, or some of them didn't come back at all. And to me, that is the if you want to start getting the veterans riled up to put our boots back on, and I've seen it. I'm one of them. I had a bunch of my buddies and we were talking about it, that, hey, we don't need the government's permission to go in there and honor our oath. There's private companies that were asking veterans to sign up, and they were going to have private backers, put them on private jets. They were going to go over there and help secure the airport to get American citizens and military out. And obviously it got shot down because of the way the government is. They shut things down because it doesn't fit their narrative. But there was a movement of a lot of veterans that were willing to risk it all because, first and foremost, our oath doesn't expire just because I'm no longer serving. I was medically discharged. My oath was not exempt, or was I recused from it because I no longer am in. And a lot of veterans take their oath seriously because, we swore before God and country to protect and defend, and we see what's happening. Our country, or the illegitimate government we have, is just letting it happen. Talk is cheap. We're ready to act. We're ready to do what we were trained to do, and now they don't want us doing it.
Now, let me put this clip that supposedly it talks about right here. This is from the Associated Press. A lot of people don't follow the Associated Press. I read all kinds of articles, whether it is left, it is right. It is really important that we read what the enemy is doing, and the enemy right now and the whole countries and every border and around the world is the left. So this is a video that explains practically what it says right here on the top. It says 13 U.S. service members and 60 Afghans killed in Kabul in airport attack. I believe that this has to do something with it.
Tonight at 11, a mother charged with killing her 2 children. The disturbing new details from police charging documents and the emotional reaction from the community. And
I will wait for the infomercial that is from these telestation, but it is so, I don't understand right now, Chris, how this is going to be handled. What do you think that is the solution? I will read a little bit before you give me that. I will read this article that it says 2 suicide bombers and a gunman attacked cowards in Afghanistan flocking to Kabul's airport on Thursday, transforming a scene of desperation into one of the horror of the waning days in an aircraft. Those fleeing the Taliban takeover. The attacks killed at least 60 Afghans, 13 U.S. troops, Afghans, and U.S. officials said. The U.S. general overseeing the evacuation said the attacks will not stop. Look at what he says. This is really important. The United States general overseeing the evacuation said the attacks will not stop. So, Chris, if the attacks will not stop, isn't it time to get everyone out?
Like I said earlier, it's beyond that point. However, what needs to happen is we have to have our leaders and boots on ground have to have a spine. Okay, we have what's called ROE, rules of engagement. It's always never shoot unless you're directly fired upon. However, that airport is already overrun. It's surrounded. The Taliban has already said they're not going to extend the 31st of August deadline. So what happens is midnight on the 31st, okay, they're going to march in and they're going to go ahead and just massacre everyone that's still in there. That's what they're going to do because they gave a deadline. So what we need our boots on ground commanders to actually man up and stop following illegitimate stand down orders, because they're putting themselves and their men and the citizens in danger by waiting to be attacked. No, you have an inherent right to self-defense. Your life is immediately in danger at 360 degrees. Okay, if it's not wearing the uniform you're wearing, it's fair game. And they don't want to. They're too afraid of international optics. Okay, that's why I was never a big fan of George Bush. But halfway through my deployment to Iraq, George Bush changed the rules of engagement to if you feel threatened, you can go ahead and engage the enemy. That's what needs to go back to, not this wait for them to fire first and then I have to ask permission to return fire.
Now,
that's one way.
Now, let me just ask you this. And as a retired, veteran, I'm a Mexican. I live over here in my country. Lived over here all my life. And this is like really important question for me to you because it practically tells me how a lot of the military feel. Do you feel that the Taliban has control of the 46th president of the United States of America?
Not just him, my friend. Not just him. China's got a vested interest in him. Russia's got an interest in him. Iran's got an interest in him. Their hands are all in his pockets right now.
Do you feel that Biden is going to do something in a matter of this hours, something that it will be remotely as a statement to say enough is enough, this is what it is? Or do you think that he's going to be cowardly hiding like he has been doing in the past hours?
Well, two things with that. One, talk is cheap, and two, actions speak louder than words. You're the commander in chief of the biggest military known to mankind, yet you cower to international pressure. That is not a commander in chief. He's thinking as acting as a politician, not as a leader. Okay, at least with Donald Trump, if you look when he went after what's his name, Soleimani, he acted first, asked questions later. He acted as a commander in chief. He ended a threat that was going to be, if Soleimani was still alive today, he'd be boots on ground and right in Afghanistan right now, leading the fight with the Taliban. That is a guarantee.
Now,
But
yeah, go ahead.
So
Go ahead.
if that had been Biden, he would have let him go. And another American lost its life. Okay, sucks to be them. That's exactly how he would treat it.
Now, let me just ask you this question. As a retired veteran right now, and that we are seeing how the borders across, and it has to do with everything that is going on in the United States of America, because the borders have been quite taken over by the organized crime, as Mexico has, our government has kneeled down to the cartel and the organized crime. And the United States of America, it looks like I lived through this idea since I grew up watching the military in the United States of America, Chris. The United States government does not negotiate with terrorists. And this today, it is a laughingstock, not only in what is happening in Afghanistan, but what is happening at the borders. They're negotiating with traffickers. They're negotiating with the cartel. They're negotiating with, with smugglers. They're saying they're giving orders to not detain no trafficker across the border and across the river. And now they are negotiating with this organized group that is a terrorist group, a well-known terrorist group. What happened?
This all goes back to Obama when he negotiated with the Taliban for that traitor and a piece of crap, and pardon my language here, Bergdahl. That was a pathetic waste of life, if you ask me. Bergdahl, because he literally put his guns and ammo down, walked out of the base, and they made him a national hero. They promoted him up to, I think, staff sergeant just because he was a coward. He walked away. The Taliban kidnapped him, and Obama cowarded to the Taliban then. One scumbag who was a traitor to the U.S., a defect or a deserter, for I think it was 25 Taliban. No, that's breaking that age-long do not negotiate with terrorists. Fast forward to today, Joe Biden actually released a dossier or a list, if you will, to the Taliban of American lives, names of Americans that are still in Afghanistan, to the Taliban. Said, hey, please do not hurt these people. What do you think the Taliban's going to do? You just gave them a list and photos of who these people are. They're going to look for them. They're going to torture them.
Now, I'm putting comments on the live feed that they are commentating and positively on what is happening right now. But, it's good to know what the people are talking about, and we can address all of these comments. Now, I want to jump into something that is kind of like your area of expertise. We're talking about what's happening in Kabul, but also there's Afghan refugees right now going all over Eastern Europe, also coming into the West Hemisphere. Mexico just allowed 140 fraction of Afghan refugees, which first they started with women and girls. That was the statement of the head chief of exterior relations, that is Marcelo Ebrard. He changed it up. Now he's accepting men. There's journalists that they're coming in that particular group of 140 fraction of refugees. There are refugees going into your side of town, that is Fort Bliss. Now, can you elaborate on how, as an El Pasoan and also as a Texan, how do you feel? Not only, for God's sake, Governor Greg Abbott, where in the hell is he? And he started talking about that he was going to protect the border. For God's sake, this guy. But right now, how do you feel about this fluency, and it's going to continue, Chris, into the Fort Bliss of El Paso, Texas.
So just for reference, I live literally 10 minutes from Fort Bliss. That's where I got out of the military from. I was down in Fort Bliss from 2005 all the way up to 2009. Okay. That's where I got deployed out of too. But as a taxpayer, first and foremost, I don't know about you guys, but I'm tired of being the world's piggy bank. Okay. I'm tired of paying other people's bills when no one's going to pay mine. Right. So, and here's the kicker with it. Where they put these refugees, they sent them to Doña Ana, which is just over the border with New Mexico. Fort Bliss extends into three different counties. Okay, so they sent them over to Doña Ana base camp, where a lot of the National Guard and reservists come down when they do their annual training for their required duty time. They go out there. So there were airborne photos of the camp that they have set up. That's only about 30 minutes from El Paso. But now you have New Mexicans and Texans fitting the bill for possible terrorists that have access to the border. We know that a couple of years ago, back in 2015, there was speculation that the cartels were helping fund and train Islamic radicals on both sides of the border here in Juarez and in El Paso. Right out there, one of the rumors was out there on Anapra. There's a mosque-looking building out there. That was one of the alleged training areas. There's somewhere out there in the Valley of Juarez, some desert areas out there they're looking at. So it's a Trojan horse, because you have the cartels who are they're already coming in. They're already well armed. Half of them were, I think, was at Los Zetas, so the U.S. trained them as well. They were former Mexican special forces that after they came to the U.S. for special forces training, they put down their guns and they joined, was it La Línea and the Juarez cartel. Some of them went to the Sinaloa cartel, and that's what during the peak of the bloodbath in Mexico, you had special forces operators acting as rogue agents for the cartel. And now you actually add possible people that are terrorists, which I said earlier, up to about 100 of these so far have been captured coming in through the processing camps that were on terrorist watch lists. So the U.S. is importing these guys for what purpose?
Now, I want to ask you something. As an going into the ex-retired agent of ICE agent, you are a retired agent of ICE. We had this conversation before. The United States of America, I don't know how much it can hold of unaccompanied minors. They are continuously coming in through the south border. There's a lot of trafficking of children. You know the process more than anybody of how this process was being done back in the Obama administration, then the Trump administration, and now this administration. Back in the Obama administration, it was a complete disaster, Chris, in terms to the child trafficking and how they were returning them back to safety. Then the administration of Trump came in. They tried to take care of that, and they did quite a secure job. Then we go back to Biden administration. Is it the Biden administration doing exactly the same as Obama administration? Why I'm asking this, because I just went to Guatemala, crossed from Tapachula to Guatemala, was in the bridge with flights that they were now flown from McAllen, Texas, with deportees all the way to Tapachula. And on those buses, they were several unaccompanied minors. This brings me back to the Obama days when Obama was deporting minors back to the coyotes and traffickers like nothing and with no safety whatsoever. Is it happening right now? Again, with this administration?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Remember, they go back to that whole kids in cages stuff that Obama created, and then they were blaming it on Donald Trump. Fort Bliss again. Fort Bliss is the epicenter. They had right across from on one of the newer annexes to Fort Bliss. They have an actual tent city, is what we call it out there, and that's where they had the migrants. And it was by Obama's genius idea that these unaccompanied minors, what we'll do is we'll put them in the United States foster care system. We won't fully vet the people that they're going to. So now the kids are who possibly and almost statistically have already been sexually assaulted along the path coming up from South America through Mexico into the U.S. They're now going into the hands where they think is safety, but the Obama administration put them in pedophiles' hands, and they were assaulted. You know, I worked in child sex trafficking and child exploitation, and some of the cases we actually had that were kind of like that. They were kind of mixed to those types of situations. Trump comes in, he had to remain in Mexico. Oh, by the way, if you come in with a child, you better make sure that you have some familiar ties to that child and you can prove it, or we'll arrest you for trafficking, international trafficking of a minor. And Trump made good with his word on it. He did prosecute a lot of undocumented people coming in with fraudulent families, fraudulent marriages, and things of that nature. And then one of the very first things that Biden did the day he took office, he got rid of the Remain in Mexico program. That was a great idea because it didn't necessarily flood Mexico or the U.S. The U.S. was working with Mexico. Hey, stop them here. We're going to tell you, send us X amount of people. We'll process them, get them through our system. Hey, send us another group of X amount, 100 or 1,000 people, and so on and so forth. It deterred people for a while, and I think you can vouch for that being where you're at. It kind of slowed down once it deterred people from flooding right off the bat, right?
Yes. Now,
so
there's a question right here. It's beard face. So didn't the U.S. Army work hand in hand with child molesters in Afghanistan for the last 20 years and never stopped it? It's documented.
Okay, so the hard thing with that is when we're already on thin ice being over there in the Middle East, okay? Now, according to whatever tribe or whatever sect of Islam that they worshipped in that area we were operating in, they believe that, and I hate to say this because it makes me feel dirty and everything with it, but they believe that, relations with a boy was for pleasure and women was just for procreation. Well, we're already invading their country, as they say, right? Invading them. So who are we to tell them what's right, what's wrong according to their religion? That's how you start what's going on over there. So sadly, what the U.S. did is they overlooked some of the stuff. One of those, if I don't see it, it's not happening type deals. And it's sad that that's the way it is. But, you got to pick your battles. Do I want to fight religion and ethics, or do I want to fight terrorism and you know what I mean? Stop terrorism here so it doesn't come to my shores. And that's the sad reality of what's been happening.
I understand this comment right here from this guy. Sorry, it's not Islam. It's tribal tradition. You're the kind of guy that believes in tribalism and all this kind of stuff. And it's going to be argumentally long, talking to you. So your comment says, sorry, it's not Islam. It's tribal tradition. Taliban's destroyed this tradition. Taliban's have destroyed a lot. It's not only the traditions. Look what they are doing right now, and it's not arguably, a question of matter. But God bless you for your comment, Chris. Last question, and what do you think it should be done right now? First and foremost, a lot of people are saying, Joe Biden resign. That's the first you got really, and it is incompetence to the maximum extent. Is not only the incompetence of our leader in Mexico, also Chris, but also the incompetence of the leader of the United States of America is beyond words right now. It is just beyond words what is happening to the United States. I think that is, for me in my lifetime, the worst president that I ever seen in my lifetime has been Barack Obama. It is the most worst president and racist president that deported more Latinos and Hispanics and also in Mexicans in history, and Latinos and Mexicans in history. But today we're seeing incompetence into the maximum word and the maximum extension of the word. What do you think it should be done right now?
As far as with the whole Biden fiasco?
No, as far as right now with Afghanistan, and then the Biden administration.
As far as Afghanistan goes, just as we learned in the follies and failures of Vietnam, stop having the politicians make decisions. Let your boots on ground commanders who actually have been in this situation well before half these politicians like AOC were even thought of. Let the commanders fight the wars that they were put into. Let them handle the evacuation with a military mindset, not a political mindset. That's the first thing. Second thing, after we do get everyone out of there, and this is just me personally, I know I'll probably catch a lot of heat out of it, I would go back and find every asset that the U.S. left behind, like every building, political office, and get a drone in there and bomb the heck out of it. Destroy it. That way it can't be used for, a Taliban stronghold. It destroys more equipment. Okay? We're always going to have a watchful eye on Afghanistan after this. They're going to learn for years after this. However, they'll probably never go back in because they've been humiliated to the point that, let's face it, the U.S. is the laughing stock of the world right now because of what you let a very destitute culture just decimate your military for 20 years, and now they have your equipment and they're laughing at you because they're attacking you with it right now. So I would just say, let the military commanders be military commanders. Stop being politicians, and let the big boys do their job right now. Let them handle the evacuation in a military manner, in an orderly fashion. Fight the enemy off, repel them until we get all American citizens accounted for. Equipment that we have left behind, you start destroying it so it can't be used again or sold for profit to help fund the Taliban. And then, we just keep a watchful eye and we destroy whatever that we can identify. As far as the Biden situation, you covered it a couple months ago. You, me, and Anthony talked about this with the whole NWO situation. Well, I know it kind of seems not the way I'm going to put it, but the NWO is actually crippling because their ingenious idea of putting AMLO in charge and Biden in charge, look what it's doing. It's basically turning the people that they wanted to have submit to that will. All it's doing is, and I'm sure you've seen on your side of the border, you have a lot of citizens that are actually ready to go and ready to stand up finally, right?
Yes.
We have that here. We have a lot of people that, even Democrats, hey, this isn't what I, quote, voted for. You got a lot of angry people that are finally sitting there. Sadly, it's gotten this far, but they're ready to sit there and fix the things that should have been fixed. So all this has done is basically expose the NWO agenda. And it also has the NWO elites on the run now because their ingenious plan is, they could have easily taken over hands down fast, but they didn't count on such a resistance right now. So,
well, thank you so much, Chris, for this little interview that we had. Hopefully, we will have more live feeds in terms to the rights of the constituents and all the things that are happening right now and this most difficult time the United States is going through right now, that these casualties are really sad. This is you don't expect this to just happen to one day to another, and it is so sad to see this. But I want to thank you so much for coming into the live feed, explaining everything. Thank you also, again, I always said this before, thank you for your courageous service that you did, and also for being an ex retired ICE agent. So thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you, Oscar. If I can end on one thing real quick, actually two things.
Go ahead.
First off, I, like any other veteran, I fly a flag outside my house. Today was the first time that I actually did this in honor of our fallen comrades. So I actually did the whole flag folding and all. And I do ask that everyone take a moment out of your day today and just pray for the families of our fallen comrades and the families that they leave behind. They will not die in vain. I'll put it that way.
Thank you so much, Chris, for this moment. Have a beautiful day, and God bless you, bro.
You too, Oscar. Always a pleasure, man.
Thanks so much. There you have it. Chris Yost, retired veteran from the U.S. Army, served 3 years in Iraq. And also we had an interview, a first interview with a 32-year-old veteran, a master sergeant that he was in the Air Force. Phone call. We had him on the phone call as he explained also a little bit of what is happening over there. You know, it's a time that is it's a time that is a lot of difficulty, and it is a time of a lot of uncertainty, not only in what is happening right now in Afghanistan, but ultimately also what is happening in around the world and in our borders. In honor of the fallen that today their lives were lost, and ultimately that they passed away today, we will do an Oscar Blue show, a minute of silence with this picture in honor of them. So I will remove myself from the live feed and I will put a minute of silence as I am going to put the time right here. And I will put a minute of silence for the falling in Kabul. There you have it. 1 minute of silence for the situation that happened today in Kabul, where around 13 U.S. Members were assassinated today at a bomb. And I will read a couple of pictures right here that they are really significant for everybody to remember. This is a statement from Ronald Reagan. It says, some people live an entire lifetime and wonder if they have ever made a difference in the world. Marines don't have that problem. Beautiful. This is another one. It says, pain is weakness leaving the body. The question isn't how much more you can take, but how much more you can give. Just when you are ready to quit, your mind says push harder. You listen, sensing an inner strength that wasn't there before. And suddenly you discover you no longer feel pain. God bless all the families that they lost today, their loved ones in Afghanistan. Pray for every single soul. Thank you so much for this live feed, for listening to the veterans that they were today speaking. Two of them, one of them 32 years he served in the Air Force, a master sergeant. The other one, an Army infantry veteran. For every single one of you that is out there, and there it is a retired or a veteran of the United States Forces, if you want to reach out to me and express how you feel at this moment, my platform is yours. I offer it to you to come and talk and speak and say in these difficult times what it needs to be done to give hope not only to the American people, but also, as the United States of America has always been, to give hope to the world. As I have said before, is it time for us to realize that unity right now, it is one of the most beautiful things that it was created by God? Is it time for us to stand hand in hand together and fight evil with God? Is it time for us to realize that we are under attack by the globalists, by the elite, and by the demonic leftist leaders in this world? Is it time for us to defend the future of our children and the future of our families? Is it time for us to defend our land? Is it time? That is the question. God bless you all. Follow me at Facebook, YouTube, Instagram as Oscar Blue Media, also Telegram and Getter. You can follow my partner, Real Anthony Agüero, at all his platforms. And also, you can follow Border Negro News at Facebook, Instagram, and Telegram. Thank you so much. God bless you all. Stay safe. And like we always say, people, peace and love. Because always, your country is first. God bless.
Ya van días y varias semanas.
He hasn't given no response, and it's been days and it's been weeks, and
What do you think, Sarah, of this canyon right here?
It's absolutely incredible. I haven't been to Tijuana in a lot of years, and seeing how wide open it is. I mean, I don't know if you could turn the camera around and show everyone just how wide open it is. It's incredible.
couple of questions. So. Rashida, what is your opinion on the massive child trafficking that is happening? Y espero logren su objetivo de la justicia a su país. Luchen por su país. Say that basically fight for your country. Están bloqueando el acceso. ¡Viva! La Policía Federal o la autoridad nos está deteniendo el acceso y nos está deteniendo el paso para poder cruzar hacia el Zócalo, señores.